Hello there. So today I will be taking a look at and reviewing the Elder Predator from the NECA AVP 2004 movie. Well, since I bought this figure loose, that meaning it does not have a box. I'll just go straight to the figure itself. So I removed the cape for to make it a bit easier to take a look at, so you can actually see the back. So the Elder Predator only has certainly one unique thing about him. That's certainly the head and the mask. So most of his unique stuff is with his accessories, not necessarily with his sculpt, because his sculpt is very similar to the AVP brothers. It's mainly the the gunmetal color scheme all over him. Same with the back, it's basically the exact same. So yeah, nothing really different with him. Just very similar to the masked or unmasked Scar, I should say. Very similar to the masked Scar figure in terms of sculpt. The only difference is he does not have this piece here. Even the gauntlets are the exact same. It also has the, I forgot what they call this, the self-destruct wrist gauntlet. And then he also has the wrist blades, which unfortunately he does not come with any extended ones. He just comes with the short ones. So yeah, and since the only unique thing about him is certainly the hair, we might as well is the head. I mean, let's take a look at it. So out of all the Predators, this is one of the two that has an unmasked head. So I would say the head on him looks really cool. As you can see, it's a very nice sculpt. It's very reminiscent of the original Jungle Hunter, but still being unique. You could also sort of see the eyes. They're not painted too well, nor do they have a unique color. And he also has the Yautja mark on the head. On the back, he has a very, very beautiful hair color. It goes from black to dark to sort of bluish purple, and then straight to this light blue. Some of the hair is also, what do I call this? It's very dark blue as well. It looks really nice, very, very pretty. I have to say, it's also one of the things that makes this figure pop. But despite not coming with a retracted combi stick, he does come with this thing, which is a clip for the combi stick. I might as well just show it right now. You could either clip that, or if you have a spare that you want to clip on his back, feel free. And then he also has this skull. I do not know what this type of thing is called, but basically he also has these skull trophies, which are very different from the others. His is noticeably much larger. So, like I was saying, his skull trophies over here are noticeably much bigger. I do not know why. The others do not have this much. So like I was saying, it is a bit bigger and also much more detailed compared to the rest. Like, these actually look like bones. The other ones look very dried. For me, they don't look quite like bones. That's probably also because I've never seen actual bones in person. So yeah. So I also like there's some gold bits everywhere. The little skull trophies are unique, like this thing. Usually the others have this or some sort of spinal cord, like this on the back. But they don't usually come with a human skull or this other creature. And it's also a lot bigger. It's noticeably a lot bigger, even if you compare this to the others. The others are very bundled here, but no, this one is a bit free, I have to say. And also, the one thing that I now noticed now that I'm looking at it, some of his parts are very matte looking. Like this part's supposed to be more, it looks a bit brownish. There's like a brown, muddy look to it that is not present on the upper body. If you take a look at it, it's a bit brownish down here as you go down, but upward, no, there's a bit of it. It's probably to show rust or age. Now that I think about it, it's probably to show that, yeah, it's probably meant to show you that this character is very old and and his armor is already rusting, which I do find pretty cool. And he also has this Egyptian looking turtleneck piece, which is present in a couple figures. They're just present in a couple figures as well. It's a reused piece, I have to say, but it looks really cool. It's brown with, it's not brown, it's blue with like a brown wash over it. I remember the others having a bit of gold as well, but this one does not seem to have it. So yeah. So that would be it about the figure itself, because a lot of it is reuse. It's not really exactly unique in terms of paint and sculpt. So yeah, now we're gonna move on to accessories. So even in terms of accessories, this figure does not come with a lot, just sort of something a bit different, I should say. So first we're gonna take a look at the hands. They're just the basic AVP hands. They're just, how do I describe it? They're just a yellow with a brown wash over them with the black nails. Or brown, extra brown paint, not really a wash, it's more of just, they have to paint that on manually, I think. Not too sure. So yeah, they're just the classic peg hole hands. No other hands except the two that come on the figure, which I do count as accessories, by the way. And then there's these two, the very tiny pieces of the figures, not figure, of the wrist blades. These are basically the smallest, the most retracted you could go. So yeah, they're nicely sculpted with the tip of the usual wrist blades you see. And yeah, they're just sculpted like that, and they're just painted with a shiny silver. They're also very tiny, so be careful not to lose them. And then over here we have the combi stick, which even the handle is noticeably different. Usually it's a copper color like this, but no, it's instead a much lighter copper with some brown wrappings on it, which looks pretty cool. And there used to be a lot more of these gold pieces on it, but unfortunately, like you could see there, mine popped off. Or is that, I'm not sure if that is an old thing that popped off or that's just a defect. And the upper blades here are relatively the same. They're just the usual brown with they're the usual copper with a silver painting and good sculpt. But the unique thing about this is these these wrist blade looking things. Yeah, they are sculpted similar to the wrist blades, and they sort of protrude on the side. They look pretty cool. And if you notice, if you look really closely, you could see that there's a bunch of silver there and here. That's because mine has popped off so many times. Like at least once every month, these pieces fall right off, so I have to super glue them and sort of conceal it with some silver Gundam paint. And then over here we have the cape. It's a very bright red cape, which I think in the movie was darker. Not too sure. But yeah, you could dye it if you want, if you have a way to do that. And then on the chain as well, they're just gold, really cool Egyptian cape looking design, and then a simple chain. And then over here is the mask, the most noteworthy accessory, I have to say. So as you can see, it's very detailed, looks very similar to the Ahab mask in the sense that you could see the mouth, and he also has very beautiful silver eyes and a bunch of the Yautja writing. I also like the coloring of the mask. It's a very like dark gold, like a very dirty gold, and then there's some silver on the mask, which makes it look really cool. I think it looks very similar to the sides of the Ancient Warrior mask, which I already done a review of. I think I might re-review it. And there's also these pieces hanging on it. Oh god, what is that? Oh, and yeah, I'm gonna remove this. I put some sticky tack on the mask to prevent it from popping off so easily, because if you own this figure, you would know that this thing is a pain to put on. Like, if you put it on, it's gonna stay there fine, but it keeps on falling off. So as you can see, the inside's also designed very nice with a bunch of the sort of red glowing pieces all throughout it. Probably some mechanical blah blah. And then here you could also see the silver eyes from inside, and there's more of that silver and dark gold paint all throughout it. And forgot to mention there's a skull and the Yautja mark there, revealing that this mask used to be silver. So yeah, that is it for the accessories. Forgot to put this thing back in. So now let's move on to size comparison. So for height comparison, so once again, I do not have a ruler, but if you watch any of the other reviews I had where I did have a ruler, and I think Mascar was 8.5 or 8.75 inches, that is basically the same height as this guy. So for height comparisons, I have two figures with me. First, I have here Ancient Warrior. I have Ancient Warrior right here. A very cool figure, one of my first AVP Predators, and still one of my favorites to this day. The only thing I did not like about him was his spear snapping, so I currently have him with a Temple Guard spear. I gave the Temple Guard like a random sword I bought. So yeah, if I need to get another one of these badly. And then second here I have Hornhead. Yeah, the Hornhead Predator. A really cool figure in my opinion, just there's a lot of problems with him. Like, I'll talk about that if I ever review him. But yeah, this is it for size comparisons. These are the two figures I decided to compare him with. So yeah, next and final is the articulation. So now for articulation. I do have to say this guy has very limited articulation, and I don't think the cape will get in the way at all, so I'm fine with having it like this. So he could look up somewhat, not too well, just slightly. He could look down slightly as well. You could tilt the head side to side, not too much though, and he could look side to side as well. And then as for the arms, they could go up. You could probably push them higher if you put your finger under here and just do that. Through this, you could probably, yeah, you could get it a bit higher than normal. And then as for the waist, I'm gonna go for both joints, not just one, because one of them is pretty much useless. He can't really crunch forward that well, nor he could crunch back decently, but this happens to the back piece there. He could also crunch side to side. Not crunch, but he could swivel side to side. The lower waist doesn't really do much. It's just sort of there like this. That's all that you could move it from. And then now the legs, he could kick up about that much, but you risk this happening. He could sort of kick backwards, but not well. He could definitely kicks to the side though. And then he also has upper thigh swivel, lower knee swivel, double jointed knees that okay, there we go, I was able to push it further. So really good leg articulation, but not really good upper body articulation. And for the ankles, they could sort of go up a bit, down a bit, and side to side a bit. So overall, decent articulation. So now for my final thoughts. Is the figure worth it? If you manage to get him cheap and loose, or even with the spear just a bit broken, I would say get him, but getting him brand new, really not all that worth it, because for the limited accessories you get, and for the fact that for the limited accessories you get, it's not, and probably one of the hardest to display with, in my opinion, he's really not that worth it to get brand new. I got lucky and got mine loose, and for a pretty cheap price, I also have to say. So yeah, the figure is very cool in my opinion, but it's more of a display piece than an actual action figure. Like, this thing is more meant to just stand on your shelf looking cool than to actually be played with, because I will admit, even though these guys are a bit harder to display, like Ancient Warrior, at least as you could see with the way I posed Ancient Warrior, I'm able to pose this guy in multiple ways. I could still sort of use him to, I could still sort of play with him. Unlike Elder. Elder is very hard to move around and make him look cool because of the fact that this is basically how we see him in the movie. Not really much room for imagination. Compared to the others, which we do have room for imagination at least. Like we actually saw the other Predators fight, or Serpent Hunter just looks too cool not to play with. So yeah, this guy doesn't exactly have that. He just looks more like a display piece, if I'm being honest. So yeah, I would say he's a very cool figure, but it's not worth to get him brand new. I recommend getting him loose, or as cheap as you could possibly. Don't go paying for the 200 plus for the brand new. Do not do that. So yeah, with all that, this is it for my review. Bye!